I'm Melissa McGregor. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a director at Jobs for the Future, or JFF. And I lead a DOL-funded industry intermediary contract to support the development and launch of registered apprenticeship programs in the manufacturing and agriculture occupations. As our aspirations to reach other planets and return to the moon continue to soar, the need for a skilled and dedicated workforce in the space sector has never been greater. Space-focused companies are at the forefront of innovation, pushing the boundaries of our understanding and capabilities. These companies require a pool of talent equipped with the knowledge and skills to propel us further into the final frontier. In this presentation, you will hear about registered apprenticeships, a powerful tool that addresses the growing demands of the space industry and contributes to the development of a highly skilled workforce. Join us as we delve into the innovative strategies, partnerships, and success stories that are propelling space-focused companies forward and fostering the next generation of space pioneers. Among the speakers on our agenda, you will have an opportunity to meet the Vice President of JFF's Center for Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning, Patrick Combs, in conversation with Lynn Strickland of AJAC. You will hear from some employers participating in registered apprenticeships, including Corey Riddle from Lockheed Martin, who works at the NASA Michoud Assembly Facility in New Orleans, Louisiana, and Bahi Watson, an aerospace engineer who founded the 1881 Institute and became a registered apprenticeship group sponsor in response to the need for talent in the space industry. Finally, we will hear from Chris Cagle with the California South Bay Workforce Board and the SpaceFlex program that supports the space industry, including Northrop Grumman, who developed the first of its kind engineering apprenticeship program through which apprentices earn a bachelor's degree along with their apprenticeship journey worker card. It promises to be an exciting agenda, so let's get started.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today in Space Age Skills, Apprenticeships Explored. My name is Patrick Combs. I'm the Vice President at Jobs for the Future over our Center for Apprenticeship and Work-Based Learning. And I am very excited today to be joined here with Lynn Strickland, the Executive Director at AJAC. Lynn, so to get us started, could you just provide us with an overview of AJAC and your role in the space industry and kind of your experience with apprenticeships in the space industry?
Certainly will, Patrick. So good evening, good afternoon, good morning to everyone out there. My name is Demetria Lynn Strickland. I am the Executive Director for AJAC Advanced Manufacturing Apprenticeship. So a little bit about AJAC. We are a nonprofit industry-driven apprenticeship service provider or an intermediary. We develop and implement 21st century incumbent worker registered apprenticeship programs. And so because we are a registered apprenticeship incumbent worker program, we also provide pathways into registered apprenticeship through our youth apprenticeship as well as our pre-apprenticeship. And so AJAC did specifically start out in the aerospace industry. However, over time, we diversified out into other industries to include space, which I might add that Forbes magazine said that Washington State is the Silicon Valley of space. So by 2026, we're projected to have about $558 billion of revenue coming into the state. So we are very happy to work with employers, local employers here in the space and aerospace industries.
That is fascinating. The Silicon Valley of space.
Silicon Valley of space, you know, we got to get those titles and grab those titles wherever we can. So
it's the truth. Now, Lynn, just for our audience out there that might not be as knowledgeable, can you tell us about what incumbent workers are and why programs for them are so important?
So incumbent workers are individuals who are currently employed with employers. And in AJAC, we really do work in the supply chain of the aerospace and space and other industries. different from traditional apprenticeship, where apprentices come and apply to us as an organization, and then we dispatch them out. We have staff that actually go out and talk to employers and look and see what their workforce development needs are, and then talk about registered apprenticeship and what a recruitment and retention tool that it can be for them to be able to train their workforce. So we work with employers, and based upon their workforce needs, we help them to select individuals into the registered apprenticeship programs that we offer. So again, a little bit different. So incumbent workers are those individuals who are currently working in industry with an employer.
That's amazing. And I think people always think about apprenticeships as an entry point into an occupation. They don't think of it also as a retention and a growth strategy. So that's really amazing. So speaking of space, the space industry has really taken off with more than 2 million people in the aerospace and defense workforce as of 2021. And the expectation is that growth is only going to accelerate from here. This is going to require workers with skills in a number of different disciplines. As you're out there talking with employers, what roles and fields are you seeing as really an increased interest?
First of all, I see what you did with that, Patrick. You said space is taking off, so I did get that.
I'm a dad. You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks. No, so what we do see when we go out and talk to employers, especially around space, what they are looking for, what the occupations and skills are. What I will tell you, our highest and or largest and or fastest growing occupations, they're in 3 different areas. They're in production, they're in maintenance, and they're in logistics and operations. And actually that is kind of across the board with all of the industries that we work in. So, and sometimes people tend to forget that, there are materials that come in through warehouse that needs to be produced and then sent back out to assemble products or to assemble products there within the organization. But there's also individuals that need to maintain the equipment that they're working on. So really, with regards to our specific occupations, we see a high demand for machinists, a high demand for industrial maintenance or automation technicians, and a high demand for logistics and operations.
That is wonderful. And I think something that's really salient about what you've been saying is that when people think about space, they think about the future. But these are jobs that are needed right now. And as you're talking to employers, how hungry are they for this workforce? Do you see a big need at the moment?
Absolutely see a huge need. So and to your point, because I go to space summits and these different summits, and you talk and you see a lot of really cool things and things for the future, or plans of what folks are going to do with it. And my thought always comes back to who's going to make those things, right? Who's going to maintain the equipment that, you're talking about this futuristic effort, of, one of the companies that was talking at a summit. They collect, I don't want to say garbage, or they're the garbage people of space, but when satellites are, go offline, they go up there, they reclaim it, and they bring it back and repurpose it and stuff. And I'm like, oh, that's great. So what kind of workforce do you need to be able to do that? What do you have now? What do you see in the future? And I think that's the complicated part is, they know and understand what they need now, but what are we going to need in the future? Because we want to be responsive, not reactive to workforce development needs. That limits growth when you don't have the workforce that you need to do the great things that folks are talking about. So I would just emphasize that, workforce development is great. All of the things of the future are great. And in space industry, there's some really exciting things. And we have to really be talking with those employers to really hone in on the skills. And some of the skills are transferable from other industries and different things and stuff too. So, those are the conversations that we generally have with employers.
That's great. So, AJAC, you all have been doing this apprenticeship business for a long time now. What about apprenticeships do you see as really a successful model for this industry?
Being a fan of education of any kind, my mom always told me, get it education, get it however you can and as much as you can, right? And registered apprenticeship has been around since about 1937, I think, with the National Apprenticeship Act and the Fitzgerald Act. But I think that we've kind of forgotten about, registered apprenticeship as a workforce development model of training. And so, we see a resurgence of registered apprenticeship and interest in registered apprenticeship and understanding of registered apprenticeship, especially with the federal and state dollars that are flowing, because we all know in many different industries that we really do need to train the workforce. So, it's exciting to see registered apprenticeship kind of what I call making a comeback. With regards to workforce development, but I also emphasize that we have a lot of great current workforce development systems with our K through 12 community and technical colleges, 2-year and 4-year institutions. But I think it's all hands on deck right now, and registered apprenticeship is another tool that employers can use to train their workforce in their organization, and the individual is able to get trained and continue their education and training in a real world work environment. So I think those are the things that are an advantage with regards to registered apprenticeship.
I could not agree more, Lynn. So I was reading a little bit about you today before this, and I saw that you were in the Army and you
Yes.
come from a military family.
Mhm.
As you talked about the different systems for education and skills, K through 12, post-secondary, the military is another one, and the military is also a big player in the space industry. So how did your military experience and growing up in that environment shape your feeling about apprenticeships?
Now looking back, what I will tell you is that, I got my 4-year degree under threat of death from my mother. But you will get your education, right? Because that, implies that, you're going to have a better life. I will say that, my life turned out pretty good. But during my service in the military, I fixed communications equipment. So secured communication equipment that went into vehicles and aircraft and different things. But the training that I received, we were in the classroom for the first part of the day, and then we were actually in the lab doing the hands-on. So we were applying our knowledge that we learned earlier in the day. In the afternoon, we had hands-on experience and stuff. And looking back, I'm like, well, that was an apprenticeship. And so for me, as far as education and training and learning and remembering things, definitely, 4-year degree is great. Didn't have any hands-on training specifically with that. But what I learned is that when I'm able to apply what I learned and hone in those skills, I can retain it better and longer and faster. So I think that is also the advantage of registered apprenticeship looking back, and growing up, I did a lot of growing up in Germany. My dad was stationed over in Germany for several years. I was over there as a young person, then again as a teenager, and graduated from high school over there. So registered apprenticeship is big in Europe. It's big in Germany, and we took trips as a Washington State delegation over to Switzerland. So apprenticeship is not foreign in other countries, and so it is the primary mode of education in other countries. I believe in Switzerland, 75% of the individuals go into a registered apprenticeship, and the other one take the university track. But their system is braided so that one can go from registered apprenticeship from university or vice versa. So it's working together. Those systems working together to be able to train individuals. So looking back, I knew about registered apprenticeship. It was a little bit different overseas, but and then it definitely really hit me looking back at my military training that in and of itself was a registered apprentice. Well, not registered apprenticeship, but an apprenticeship.
Still that earn and learn on the job training with the related
Absolutely,
technical instruction model.
absolutely.
That is, love it when things come full circle. I also got the same college degree from my mother. That you will get this degree. But hey, that's what moms are for.
Absolutely.
So this past summer, JFF, we launched our North Star vision, which is in 10 years, 75 million people facing systemic barriers to advancement will work in quality jobs. As more apprenticeship opportunities arise in the space industry and a lot of these growth industries, how can we make sure as apprenticeship providers, as employers, that we are making sure these opportunities are available to people from all different kinds of backgrounds?
Mhm. And that's a great point. And I think AJAC is very intentional about that. We want to be able to have the industries in which individuals are working in reflect the communities and the changing demographics of these industries for people to be able to have pathways into, high demand, high paying jobs. So that is definitely something that AJAC keeps in mind. And through our youth apprenticeship and our pre-apprenticeship, we do have a very diverse pipeline for employers to be able to pick from. But when we're talking about, how are we going to ensure that the industry is diverse? And I think it's really telling individuals as young as possible of the available opportunities. My spouse's Nana said, "What you don't know will make a brand new world," right? And if individuals don't know about these opportunities, then they just don't know. And so in addition to telling individuals about it, so it's marketing and a lot of different things. It's getting them maybe into some of these cool employers that are in the space industry to be able to see what they're doing. That now with advanced technologies and videos and different things, just exposing individuals to the opportunities that are there. And as far as diverse population, I also think it's not just a show, but a tell, right? You have to show them, because if individuals can see it, then they can believe it, right? From in my family, me, my brother and sister were the first ones to go to college in our family. But, you know, at one point it's just like, nobody's ever gone to college. We can't go to college, but that's the same mentality. And so being able to talk about the stories, even of trailblazers that have been in there. I love reading about the Bessie Colemans, and the Katherine Johnsons and the other hidden figures that were diverse that are in and have been and have contributed to these industries. We have to show and tell these stories, to be able to allow individuals that are underrepresented in these industries to see themselves doing these things. So, I think it's a combination of a lot of different things, but, it really is being able to show and tell individuals from underrepresented populations that that this is here, right? And you too can do it. One of the quotes from Bessie Coleman that I love, she said, I didn't know if I can, something to the effect of, I didn't know that if I could do it, but I tried and I did it, something to that effect, so having them see it and then having them try it, I think are good ways to be able to get individuals. But you also have to create those pathways and talk about barriers and being able to remove barriers to be able to allow individuals to be able to have those opportunities in these great careers.
That is amazing, Lynn. That is absolutely amazing. When you're talking to potential young people who can maybe go through your youth apprenticeship program, how do you help open their eyes and make them actually believe that this is a possibility for them?
In addition to talking about it, we actually show them. So when we were recruiting young people to be in the apprenticeship program, we talk to them, we talk to their parents. So it's not just us talking to them, it's talking to their parents. And sometimes, believe me, parents are just as excited about the opportunity for their young person, because if you go through our youth apprenticeship program and then on into our more advanced programs, which are anywhere from 18 months to 5 years, I mean, you're looking at 20, 21-year-old with an industry recognized credential and all of these hours and all of this education and training, and they're set. So I think it's very important to have engagement from their families, have them do, some research, talk about it. But we also set up tours with employers that are willing to partner with us in our K through 12 and our community and technical colleges to be able to provide a youth apprenticeship pathway into industry for these young people. So, it's one thing to tell them about the opportunities, but when they see it, and we work with a majority of the employers we work with are small to medium size, and then you have the larger organizations here too. But, so we show them the different opportunities for them within industry, and they get really excited about it. And some of them, especially as high school students, they may or may not want to, or think that they can or afford to go to post-secondary. So this is a pathway and an option for them. And in our particular model of registered apprenticeship, these apprentices are earning college credits. If they're in high school, they're also earning high school credits. They're getting real world on the job training, and in our more advanced occupations, by the time they're finished, they can have access to a 2-year degree. In the state of Washington, if you're engaged in registered apprenticeship and you have college credit attached to the classroom portion of training, it's 50% reduced tuition. So you're looking at earning college credit, access to a 2-year degree, 50% reduced tuition, 0 college debt, and an industry recognized credential. So we talk about the advantages and try to look, long term, and talk to them about the opportunities and the way for them to be able to set themselves up for some really great careers.
Wow, when you talk about return on investment, 21, industry recognized credential, no debt, working in a good job, that sounds like a pretty proven pathway to me.
Yeah, out of the house, the young people are happy and the parents are happy. So it's a win-win.
I think we have time for one last question, Lynn. So I just wanted to ask you, people call space the final frontier, but we know it's not going to be the final emerging industry. As AJAC has continued to grow, what are some of the newest or most emerging trends you're seeing or industries in the apprenticeship space?
Of course, I'd have to cough before that last question, but as I said earlier, I mean, we've seen registered apprenticeship emerging in other industries, which again is exciting. It's beyond the traditional building and construction trades, which are great and high-paying jobs too. But we see them in IT, we see them in hospitality, we see them in healthcare, we see them in finance. Just to name a few. So I think the registered apprenticeship model can work in any industry. And, as we were discussing a little bit before, it might need to be tweaked for different industries, but the whole model of earning while you're learning, I believe, can be applied to just about any industry, and so there are a lot of great organizations out there that are doing pilot programs, nursing as a form of, a registered apprenticeship pathway into nursing, with the need that we have for nursing and different things, I think it's exciting, and I hope that we continue that trend to be able to expand out into the other industries, again, working with the existing workforce development systems that are here. I think it's I don't think it's the final frontier, but I think it's definitely an opportunity to be able to expand out into other industries and, help us to remain competitive in this global economy that we have.
Cheers to that, Lynn. Lynn, thank you so much for your time today. I learned a lot. I hope everyone watching learned a lot. And yeah, I think I'm going to have to take a trip out to AJAC for my next career. So thank you so much for your time today, Lynn.
Absolutely. And I will tell individuals, if you want to learn more about AJAC programming, www.ajactraining.org. My communications director will love me for that. And I hope that makes the final cut.
Absolutely. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you, Patrick.
Hi, welcome back. We have a very special guest today, and I'm going to ask you to introduce yourself, Corey.
Thank you. My name is Corey Riddle. I'm with Lockheed Martin Space, and I'm located at the NASA Michoud Assembly Facility on the east side of New Orleans. We are one of the few facilities that's integrated within a NASA NASA facility itself. And I've been with Lockheed for several years now. I'm the multifunctional manufacturing engineering manager.
So I would love it if you could dig a little deeper and talk about how Lockheed is connected to the space industry. It seems obvious, but if you could give us a little background.
So at our facility in New Orleans, we manufacture the Orion crew module and a lot of the subsystems that go inside of that. The crew module is the little white part that sits at the top of the big orange rocket for the Artemis program. The Orion crew module holds four crew members. We have successfully already launched Artemis 1. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary of that. At Michoud, we build the pressure vessel, which is the exterior of the crew module itself. We build the crew seats, the pilot seat. We build the majority of the life support system. We build the launch abort system, which is the little pointy part that sits at the top. All of the jettisonable fairings, and all the way down to the European service module. And so just in that one program and that one product, it's going to carry the next group of humans to the moon, hopefully here within the next 2 to 3 years.
That is
furthermore,
sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. Furthermore, Lockheed, we have built the sitting on Mars right now with the rover. We built the little helicopter that flies around. We have built hundreds of satellites. Most of your GPS that your car or your cell phone may use is built by satellites that we build at the Stennis Space Center at the John C. Stennis NASA facility in Mississippi. Our headquarters for space in Denver, we build everything from solar arrays and antennas to the probes and things that are sent into deep space exploration.
That sounds great. It's super exciting. So with all of this work, what types of skills are you most looking for in the talent that you hire?
We're an engineering company, but engineers don't actually build anything. It takes a lot of technicians. It takes a lot of skilled technicians. And so when you look at just Stennis and Michoud, that's around 250 technicians, and it ranges from electronics, electronic circuitry, a lot of composites, a lot of metal fabrication, machinist, testing, quality inspectors, and all of these are typically on the job trained. So
okay. So how has apprenticeship helped you meet those needs?
Apprenticeships are absolutely vital. We have, anywhere from, at any given time, anywhere from 30 to 40% of our workforce is eligible for retirement. And so that creates a vacuum there where you're taking people who had 40 plus years of experience, and they're creating a big gap in your bench strength. The classic way would be to, hire people off the street. Look at people who had somewhat similar skill sets and try to train them up. And, you typically have a minimum of a 1.5 to 2 year learning curve there before you get people to a point where they are confident, you're confident, and they have the certifications and things to be successful. Our registered apprenticeship programs that we do with our local community colleges, not just here, but in Florida, Texas, Denver, California, they shorten that learning curve. And the main thing is that not only are they, coming in the door and they're much better equipped and much better educated and ready to go, but they're also bringing in new skill sets and new tools and tricks that we might not have even seen yet. So the registered apprenticeship program is vital for business continuity. And you never know when somebody's going to win the lottery and say, hey, I'm not coming in tomorrow. And so having that registered apprenticeship program keeps a supply chain flowing for us. So we have people that they're going to be getting through with their apprenticeship programs at the community colleges next year, or this coming spring, next fall. And so we've got a constant rhythm of available talent.
That's nice. That's so great for Lockheed and for the students and apprentices who are involved in the program. When did you first realize that you needed an apprenticeship program, or how did you hear about it? Let's talk about the inception moment.
Lockheed has been a national leader in apprenticeship programs, 30 different programs. They've already had 4,000 apprentices go through some form of a registered apprenticeship program at both union and non-union facilities. And but it's always been focused on the larger facilities. It's been focused on facilities like Dallas, Fort Worth, where we have several thousand employees. They've seen the benefit of it for a long time. They have a high volume of people that they bring in. So for smaller facilities like Michoud or Stennis, we were kind of late adopters to it. But we started a couple years ago. We brought in, I guess it was last spring, we brought in 5 people who were in the apprenticeship program with the local community college there in our neighborhood of New Orleans. And they hit the ground running, and they did a phenomenal job. And we had great success with them. And so we started thinking, hey, this is working for us. And so as we started looking at that natural attrition forecast that we have, looking out as far as 8 years of just people who are eligible to retire, we started seeing what our demand was going to be. So we started thinking of it as a pipeline, as a long lead time material. So what we're currently doing is building an 8-year forecast built strictly off of who will be eligible for retirement. And we're providing that back to the community colleges to say, hey, these are the people that we're going to need in 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, and 8 years, so that they can go back to the high schools and start saying, hey, we're going to need students to fill this at this point in time, so that the high school programs can be going back to the junior high programs and saying, hey, we're going to need kids who are interested in these STEM activities. The best part about it is we're bringing folks in. They're trained, they're ready, they're starting to work at a high paying job, and they kind of already have a sense about where they want to go. Do they want to, be a production technician? Do they want to be a quality inspector? Or do they just want to do that for a while to get their feet on the ground and to get established financially, and then let me pay for you to go to school and get your bachelor's degree? Let me foot the bill for you to go get that secondary degree. And that way when they start going into university, or they, even continue in a community college to achieve another associate's or something, they are better prepared. They're more determined. They know what they want to do. And not only that, but they're not walking away with the financial debt that a typical college student would have, going straight from high school into university, and then walk away with 4 years of student loan debts. So that's the big plus. That's the big sell is, do 2 years, do your last 2 years in high school in like a VOTEC program, start getting the taste, start getting the feeling, the sense, the smell, the appetite for what you can do with us. Come to work for me for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, be an apprenticeship, get a high paying job, and then go. If you want to go on to college, great. We'll pay for you to go do that. And you're going to still end up at about the same point in time, the same intersection, after high school, but you're going to have far less debt, and you're going to have a far better resume, and you're already established with the company. You've already got all this experience. So it's a win-win for both the company and the candidate. So.
Right. It sounds like you kind of approached it from the beginning from a supply demand standpoint. and then went from there. Would you say that's correct?
Absolutely. The worst thing that can happen is for you to have a seasoned employee who walks in and says, "Hey, did you know that I'm old enough to retire and I've been here long enough?" Yeah. They say, "Great. Did you also know that I have 10 weeks of vacation to take and I'm taking that now, and when I come back I'm retiring?" And now you've got to start the process of, "Oh my God, how do I go and find somebody? How do I get somebody trained up?" So it costs you a little bit more up front, but it saves you so much, because when you start identifying those people and you start them out on an apprenticeship program, you don't feel the hurt when a senior person decides to go enjoy the rest of their life because they've earned it. So you don't have that gap in knowledge and skill set.
Right. So what should other employers in the space industry or other fast-growing industries know about apprenticeships? What do you want to make sure that other employers might need to know about apprenticeships?
I think the scariest part and the hardest part for us was the creating a forecast and kind of somewhat committing to the community colleges and committing to an apprenticeship program to say, "Hey, I'm going to need these people." But you have to take a hard look, and you have to look statistically at what your turnover rate is. But you also have to look at your organic attrition of who do you have that is a single point of failure in your operation, and can you afford for that person to be gone even for an extended period of time, let alone permanently. And so when you start thinking about it from a business continuity, from a risk mitigation standpoint, then it's easy to understand the value of it. Then once you get started and you take that leap of faith and you go pick up a couple and you realize, wow, they were on their tools a lot faster than the average person. They brought in a set of skills that we didn't even know that we needed yet. You take somebody like a welder and you say, "Well, I've got them trained in TIG welding and they're great in TIG welding." But then you go and you pick up an apprentice who, through the partnerships, they have learned friction stir welding, or they've learned additive, they've learned all these other skill sets. And now not only does that give you a higher caliber employee, but now that also makes you as a company a little bit more agile and flexible so that you can expand beyond what you're currently doing. So when you look at it from a value proposition, it makes absolute business sense. It's scary though, because you feel like you're committing to somebody to say, "Hey, in 8 years, I'm going to hire you." And most of us don't even know what we're going to be doing 8 hours from now. So yeah, that's the worst part, and that's where you just have to pull the trigger and go.
It sounds like you've got it kind of figured out. Do you have any advice for other employers who might want to adopt the apprenticeship model?
Absolutely. It's very easy to pigeonhole yourself too much. It's very easy to get down and say, "I want someone who can build and test wire harnesses that are of this function and form and fit." You don't want to do that. You don't want to create such a fine gap that you're trying to fill, that you block out a lot of others. Keep in mind that when you're developing an apprenticeship program, it's about critical thinking. It's about the basics. You don't want to go and have someone who you've created a program, or you've created this candidate that they can only ever do one thing for your company. So think about those crossovers. Think about how how your fabric is woven together, and it's not just one function. It's not just one skill set. It's mechanical assembly. It's a composite assembly. It's electrical assembly. But what that all boils down to is assembly, right? Or it's inspection. It doesn't have to just be electrical inspection or NDE or X-ray. It's inspection, right? So it's like trying to find a multi-purpose tool. You know, you can go get a hammer that is perfectly made for this nail today, and it drives this nail perfectly every single time. But you might not be using that nail tomorrow. So get a more multi-purpose hammer, if that makes sense. So give yourself some flexibility, leave it a little bit broad enough that if you have a mechanical assembly candidate who is sharp and they show a lot of aptitude, that it's okay to move them over to the inspection role, or it's okay to take someone who they really did their apprenticeship in quality and inspection, but they understand enough and they can critically think that you can move them over here into an assembly role. So that's another way to gain comfort as an employer when you're trying to create these forecasts and say, well, this is what I'm looking at. And if all else fails, just go with a general mechanical aptitude type skill set.
That sounds good. This has been an incredible conversation. Thank you so much, Corey, for sharing all of your great knowledge. Is there anything else you'd like to leave employers with, or anyone else thinking about investing in the registered apprenticeship system?
Absolutely. If you're not looking at it from how you can grow your company, then I would be concerned about what your plan for your company growth is. Because if you think about it, I don't care what industry you're in, I don't care what kind of employer you are, you have competitors. And if you're not taking the time right now to start on improving your skill set, to diversify, to make yourself more agile, you should assume that your competitors are. So if for nothing else, you got to look at it as, where am I going tomorrow? What do I want to be when I grow up? What kind of company do I want to be 20 years from now? And so you need to be thinking about what kind of employees are you going to have. And it's super difficult to sit here and say, well, I'm going to be building, the revision 49 of some smartphone. Yeah, that's tough to do. But do you know that you want to be working on cutting edge electronics? Do you know that you want to be working on cutting edge aerospace parts? Do you know that you want to be working on cutting edge wood furniture? It doesn't matter. Just have a vision and think about how you're going to lace in your workforce with that, and then use that vision to try to establish, what am I going to need? The worst thing that I think any employer can ever do is to sit there and look out there at your shop floor, to look out there at your assembly areas and think, hey, I'm good enough right now. I'm making money. I don't need to do anything different. Because I promise you, there is a competitor who is trying to beat you out right now.
That sounds good. Well, thank you so much for joining me in this conversation and for leading the charge on the registered apprenticeship program in the NASA area of with Lockheed Martin. I've enjoyed having you on the show and having this conversation.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much.
My name is America Moreno, and I work for Thermoforming System. When I started working at the Thermoforming System, it was like something new, like something hard that I was not sure if I was going to be able to achieve. And AJAC has been helping me a lot to achieve my goals. For me as a woman, it's like a great opportunity. I'm a mother of 4 daughters, so I want to show them like, hey, we can do this. For me, it was really hard to communicate and to be in front of the class or say something. I was so embarrassed. And then I hear other guys that they were having the same problem as me, and it makes me feel more confident about be like, hey, we're all the same here. We're here to learn. Well, I wish AJAC continue with these programs for so many years. And for those ones that are out there like me, this is a great place, a great opportunity that AJAC is giving to a lot of people.
We are back, and I have a very special treat for you today. I'm going to be talking with Bahi Watson from the 1881 Institute and some apprentices with him. So, Bahi, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Bahi Watson, Executive Director and founder of the 1881 Institute. I've been a mechanical engineer for 25 years, and saw a need where there were people within our area that were looking to get into this industry, and there wasn't really a mechanism for them to do so. So I founded the 1881 Institute to help with that.
Can you talk about the evolution of the 1881 Institute and how it grew to what it is today?
Sure. So basically, we started out, our initial goal was to become a registered, not a registered, I'm sorry. I'm thinking about registered apprenticeships, but we wanted to become a charter school. So basically, what ended up happening, our charter wasn't approved by the local Orleans Parish School Board. So what we ended up doing was we started doing after school programming, working a lot with different schools. And we were working with young students in college who wanted to go into engineering, and they were actually working in our programs. And what we saw was that a lot of the young people who were going through our program, they were getting the experience that they needed to get into industry. So I felt like the board felt like this was the area in which we really wanted to target. These were the individuals we wanted to target. So what ended up happening was we had other individuals come in who weren't in college, like the folks who were teaching in our after school programs or working with the young students in our after school programs. So what we ended up doing was forming an apprenticeship program. At first it was unregistered at the time. We were able to get a lot of young people into industry. And it then evolved into a registered apprenticeship program. Once we started working with these college students and with folks who were out of school in our apprenticeship program, we started getting people in high school, young parents, well, not young parents, but parents who had young people in our after school program who didn't want to send their students to a charter school or send their kids to a charter school. So we ended up doing a homeschool program, and basically we were working with these students to do dual enrollment. So I know it's a lot of layers, but as people came to us, we developed the programs to meet the needs of the community.
That's an amazing journey for 1881 Institute. Can you talk about how apprenticeship has been a tool to connect workers or students, young people who have had systemic barriers to advancement to growing fields such as the space industry?
Yeah, so myself, I've worked pretty much in aerospace industry for my entire career. And what I was seeing was that a lot of young people didn't understand that really it's your experience that really will capture an employer along with your education. So sometimes I think academics will often tell young people that a 4-year degree is the only thing that will get you through the door. It's really not. What I'm seeing is that there are other avenues for people to get into the door. The space industry, I think, is still relatively new to the apprenticeship realm, but I think things are starting to open up a little bit. So hopefully there'll be more apprentices getting into this field moving forward.
That's my hope as well. Can you talk about challenges or lessons that you've learned or discovered in moving through the process of, recruiting and becoming a registered apprenticeship program sponsor and potentially even engaging other employers to participate in your model?
I think one of the main challenges is as a registered apprenticeship, for it to be registered, the participant actually has to be working for that company, right? So we have an agreement right now with RTA where we're doing a registered apprenticeship. One of the challenges has been that we were anticipating that we would actually they would hire more people than what they initially hired. So when that didn't happen, we decided to create other programs to kind of meet the needs of the individuals that were coming to us. So As you know, we're doing a degree apprenticeship. We have technical fellows along with a registered apprenticeship.
I feel like every challenge that you've met, you've come up with an innovative solution. It's incredible.
Oh, thank you.
So I understand you brought some apprentices with you today, and I'd love to bring them up and introduce them. So I'm gonna call on you. So let's start with Victor, if you don't mind, and if you could talk about how did you get connected to apprenticeship?
I was connected by I was taking classes at Delgado, and I met Bahi Watson through his CAD class that he taught there. And he has a very good connection with my physics teacher as well. I met him in person and told him my desire to become an electrical engineer eventually, and that was my eventual goal. And afterwards, he was like, "Well, since you have some background knowledge in circuits and electronics, I think it would be a good idea if you come along and do an apprenticeship with us here at the 1881 Institute, teaching kids, young folks, how to do circuits and robotics and how the marriage of circuits, electronics can eventually make robots and make any one of their designs come true, basically." So that's basically how it came along.
That's incredible. So I'm going to move to Trey. If you could talk about the goals for your career as an
So I found out about 1881. I was actually a mechanic over at RTA, and we had a job posting for a machinist apprentice, and so I applied for it, and I got the job, and started over at 1881 as an apprentice. Learned about CAD, which is actually a field that I've never touched in, so I've only really had mechanical background knowledge and stuff like that. So that's how I came across 1881. And since I've been there, I've learned a bunch of different woodworking, CNC, a bunch of CAD, and some other things. And right now I'm learning welding. So
That's an incredible experience. Mark, do you want to talk about your experience as an apprentice?
As an apprentice, it's been a very interesting journey over the past couple of years. Starting out with learning how to read blueprints, to my introduction to CAD, which was SolidWorks, which I had no clue that program even existed, to Onshape, which is a similar program, to eventually getting to the lathe machine and then the mill machine. And pretty soon, I think within the next few months, I should be starting woodworking. And then I think within a year, welding. So it's been like a good journey. I think the best part for me is that it's a lot of it's hands-on. And then throughout my process of it, I'm seeing my growth, and it's actually in my hands. So that's the best part about it. And I've been able to meet amazing people because of it. So I'm grateful for the opportunity.
That's incredible. Curtis, let's hear from you. How did you find out about the apprenticeship program and get involved?
So I was looking for a job, and I went through job one, and job one had sent me over to 1881, and I was doing a work experience. And doing the work experience, I was basically doing everything what Trey was doing as an apprentice. And I was basically learning CAD, my first introduction to CAD, my first time doing woodworking, especially fine woodworking. And after that, he decided to hire me on. So after that, I stayed with them. And basically, I've been involved in making curriculum for the students that we're teaching in after school programs. And yeah, that's how I got involved in 1881.
That's great.
That's great.
Joseph, and we have two Josephs. So Joseph Allen, how did you get involved in the apprenticeship program, and what has been your experience moving through the program?
Yes. So I first got involved with 1881 back in 2015, 2016. There was a summer program where we had students from Job One come and do a learn and earn program. So they came. I think they got paid about $10 a day, and they learned CAD and electronics. I think there was also an SAT prep course, and so I was one of the instructors at that camp. And then the following year, I was a robotics mentor for the after school robotics program. And since then, I graduated college and worked a few years away from 1881 as a software engineer, and then came back this year as a software developer and robotics curriculum coordinator. So I've been working closely with Curtis and Victor and Joseph and Mark on the curriculum.
That is incredible. So you moved all the way through the apprenticeship program, and now you are teaching, correct?
Yes.
That's excellent. Joseph Hightower, why don't you describe, well, actually, why don't you tell us what advice you could give to employers who are hiring apprentices?
I say probably you gotta be patient with a couple of them because you're gonna get a wider range of people, and it's gonna come with a wider range of problems. And so at first it's gonna seem daunting, but if you really guide them and you're really patient with them, you can get a group of loyal employees that you really rely on for everything. I feel like definitely.
I'm a big fan of exactly what you just described. It's so incredible to have all of you on here. I'd love to ask what advice everyone has for employers who are looking to hire apprentices. So I'll call names, and we will start with Victor. The question was, what advice would you have for employers who are looking to hire apprentices?
I would definitely say for an employer, the best thing that they can do is hire an apprentice that has a bunch of hands-on and practical experience within the tasks that they want to handle. Especially if between a person that does not have practical experience and they just have theoretical experience, it really doesn't mix well, because on the job, when you're actually doing things, you actually need that prior experience, so that way you can tackle jobs faster. You can do it, safer if it's a very large job and creating parts, for example, for the space industry. It's always good to have someone who understands how things are made and how they will make them, so that way they can get the job done properly. So the most experience a person can get for an employer, the better it is.
Wow. Trey, do you want to tackle that question?
So I agree with Victor a little bit, but I also want to add in I find if an employer is looking for an apprentice, you got to find somebody that is very interested in what the apprenticeship is for, has that drive, has that want to learn for that industry, whatever it may be, so that they want to keep learning. They want to, they always want to stay on top of the game, pretty much.
Okay. Mark?
I would say they should be open to someone who is willing to ask questions and who isn't afraid to say they don't know, because we all start out somewhere not knowing. And I have to say I'm grateful for Mr. Watson for opening up the door to me to this opportunity, because I love what I'm doing. So it's a whole new world that I've been opened up to. So I would say be open to to someone that's new, and open to someone that's willing to ask questions and want to be open and vulnerable about where they are in the apprentice journey, because it could lead to somewhere beautiful, in my opinion.
That's nice. I'm going to actually turn to Bahi and ask you, after all that you've done to start this program and to recruit students, what is your advice for other employers who would want to get involved in registered apprenticeship in terms of how they're developing the program or how they're recruiting for it? And you might need to press your unmute button.
I would say that for employers interested in getting into registered apprenticeships, oftentimes I feel like employers don't believe that we're really preparing our apprentices to be an asset to their company, like it's some type of charity. But what we're doing, we take it seriously, and we're preparing them to be an asset to that employer. So I would just say some advice would be, don't look at it as a charity, but you're actually bringing on someone who can help you meet your bottom line. I think you're muted now.
Thank you. Yes, that is 100% true. For generally every apprenticeship program I've encountered in my career is that once employers find out what it's doing for them and how much the apprentices are learning, it has an incredible return on investment. Joseph Hightower, do you want to talk about some advice that you would have for employers looking to hire apprentices?
I feel like just touching on what everyone else said, really you're looking for that drive, that willingness to learn, because you could start off from completely nowhere, but you can develop that employee into someone that's going to be very reliable for you and will have all the skills that you need for them to continue on in your company and even grow and help it become a better company overall.
Incredible. I think Curtis, have I asked you yet? There's so many.
No, not yet. But yeah, I'll basically say what everybody else says, because basically I was new to this stuff too, and they gave me a chance in terms of I love what I'm doing. So yeah, just find someone who's willing to put in the time.
I believe that.
Oops. That's what you said.
There's a theme. Oh, there's a feedback. Sorry. There's definitely a theme among everything that I've heard today, and that is, hire somebody who's unqualified and give them an opportunity to learn and put into practice the things that you're teaching them. Looking for someone who's willing to ask questions, who's got a desire to learn. So it's incredible hearing that from the voices of people who are moving through the program already. Bahi, do you want to close us out with any final words on recruiting?
Sure. Yeah, in terms of recruiting, I tend to think about what apprenticeships may look like 10 years from now. And I've had a chance to be in some circles where some of the colleges are now preparing their students. So these are like colleges who have students majoring in engineering. So they actually have students and they're preparing them actually to work as technicians, which is really unheard of, right? So I've heard from a number of them, I would say a few of them, more than I was anticipating, that they're now allowing their students to come in and transferring over some of those credits from the associate degree program. So what does that mean? So what that means is offering apprenticeships where now we thought, okay, well, the certification will get you in the door. When you now have engineers who can now act as technicians, that kind of will change the market a bit. I'll give you an example. We talk a lot about computer-aided design and CAD, and there used to be a lot of draftsmen in the engineering field. There are very few now. Well, what happened, the reason because of that is because now they're teaching engineers how to be draftsmen, and now they're not doing it on paper, they're doing it on the computer. That eliminated most of the draftsmen and that type of career. So in terms of recruitment, I would think that now we have to prepare students to not only, and for them to realize that, okay, well, you getting the certification is great, but this may not be enough for you to get the promotions that you would like to get in the future. So that's it that I have in closing. And I feel like as 1881, we're doing a good job at doing that. I think Mark had something that he wanted to add to the conversation.
Go ahead, Mark.
I know earlier you mentioned you want to hear some pieces on, I guess, space connections. My whole journey to begin with, to get into 1881 would not have happened if I didn't do LA ACES, which is like a space program that the state of Louisiana schools, university does with NASA. So during the 2015-2016 school year, I was a project lead for our project to where we basically we built a payload, and NASA allowed us to use their ballooning equipment in Palestine, Texas, and we were able to send up this device 100,000 feet in the air, collect some data, go and collect the payload, and get some more data, and then do a whole presentation. And also this past October, I was able to work on the annual solar eclipse with Joseph Hightower, and it was pretty cool experience to be able to do that. So with the apprenticeship, adding on that, I didn't know that I could be able to do like the design aspect of it, like building like different parts or rockets or whatever, and then also on a design side as well. So I guess throughout my past 5 or 6 years, I've been able to have a full circle with this, being able to do the science part with with NASA, with space, and then also with the engineering part here with 1881. So I feel like I've acquired some skills and going to acquire more skills to be fruitful for NASA or any other corporation in the future. So I think 1881 has allowed me the opportunity to do that. So it's been a cool experience.
That's incredible. What's your favorite part now that you've had both design and technician and the engineering piece sort of full circle? Where do you see that taking your career?
I was thinking about that like a week ago, because I'm hands-on, so I like to have my hands on something. So I know I would want to be in the design aspect, but I still love the science part, because that's my original love is science. So if I can find a way to be able to find a way to still be able to hands-on and working like in a shop, and then be able to go out in the field and collect data as well, that would be perfect for me. Because I had a good time in San Antonio this 2 weeks ago when we went out there. We did some outreach as well while we were doing our launching. We had folks from the region that come up, ask us questions. We gave out flowers. We even had them participate in some of our launches. So that was a cool aspect to where I can be like a what's the word? I guess a bulletin board for science. So it's cool. I want to do both. I don't think I'd be happy with just doing one thing. So I think this will bring me in that direction to be able to do that.
That's great. And you're all recommending apprenticeships to all of your friends and family members as well, correct?
Absolutely.
It's been so great having all of you and your voices and learning about your experiences. Thank you so much, Bahi, for telling us about the 1881 Institute and for inviting all of these great voices to the table and to the conversation. So I appreciate it. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. We're back. Today I'm here with Chris Cagle. Chris, I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
All right. Thanks, Melissa. Thanks for having me today. Really appreciate it. My name is Chris Cagle. I'm with the South Bay Workforce Investment Board. We're out here in California in the Los Angeles area. I am the Regional Affairs Manager here, and I oversee our apprenticeship programs for non-traditional occupations.
Excellent. Can you tell me a little bit more about the apprenticeship programs that you are doing, particularly those that are related to the space industry?
Yeah, the space industry, we've been servicing for quite a long time with one of our primary partners, Northrop Grumman. In our area, they have nearly 12,000 employees, so they've been quite a significant partner of ours for a very long time. It started actually not so much with space for us. We started with aerospace, and we created a program called AeroFlex, which was part of the relationship we had with Northrop Grumman and a lot of other manufacturing employers in the aerospace industry. And it was actually the employers that coined the name AeroFlex. So it was our first stab at trying to get an apprenticeship program going. And we started out with pre-apprenticeship. And from there, we moved to apprenticeship. And then from that, we moved into more space occupations. And most recently for Northrop, we've been working on a facilities maintenance technician role that is important for their facilities, like making sure the clean rooms are operational and they have the environment they need to build satellites and various things. And then we've also created sort of a consortium of local companies that are specializing in space. So we've registered recently an occupation in optics for a local company that makes telescopes, and we've done a couple more occupations for radio frequency technician and assembler. So it's going along quite well so far.
That's really incredible. If you don't mind, can we take just a little step back and set the context of where you're located? I know you're in California, but for our audience, can you talk about the space industry and manufacturing in your local area in California?
Yeah, so we're the South Bay as it relates to Los Angeles, South Bay. And we, in this area, have quite a bit of manufacturing going on. As I mentioned, Northrop, their facility there is called Space Park. So they do satellites primarily and a lot of other things. But in particular, in our area, we have the Los Angeles Air Force Base here as well. And there's actually no runway at the Los Angeles Air Force Base. It's a base that is, I think, primarily used for satellites, and they do a lot of technical things to manage systems all around the country. So because of that Air Force Base, a lot of manufacturers that support the Air Force Base are also here. And Northrop Grumman, which is obviously a big prime contractor, they subcontract out to all these other smaller companies that produce parts for a lot of the things that they're working on. The Hubble telescope was made there. The new Webb telescope was made there. Plus, I don't know, satellites of all kinds. So what happened in the beginning for us is we start as workforce board. At the time, we were doing a lot of what we call sector partnership meetings. So one in particular was manufacturing, and we'd call the employers together to talk about what their needs are and the forecasts of what they're going to need coming up. And that's how we sort of got into the apprenticeship space. And then from there, we started making connections with our suppliers of what happens next after things are manufactured here. And we figured out that, for example, rockets, a lot of them are manufactured here, but then they're tested in the New Orleans area, and then they're flown in the Florida area. And then some of those headquarters of those companies are in all three locations. So we thought, well, we could create something that could scale wherever they do business. And it ultimately turned out to be a requirement of a lot of companies that when we figure out these different training models, that it works wherever they are located. So apprenticeship is well suited for that.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And it's so incredible how all of the space companies are sort of all connected, and they're vendors of each other. So do you see a lot of common skills among all of the employers that you're working with across different companies?
Yeah, they all need similar things as, I mean, like the RF technician, radio frequency technician, that applies to a lot of the different employers for what they're doing. But then all the way down to basic things like welder and facilities maintenance technician, they all have facilities, they all need roles like that. So we do try when we're designing an apprenticeship program that we have at least 2 or 3 employers that share the same needs so that they're um, is some consistent demand. But with a huge company like a Lockheed or a Northrop Grumman, they have locations in these different areas, and a company with thousands of employees, just that one company is sort of something that's representative of the market. So if they really need it and they need to hire a lot of people in that one occupation, we would move forward with them. So we get a lot of our market um, data from the big employers of where we're going next.
Speaking of big employers, can you get a little deeper on the Northrop Grumman apprenticeship program, particularly the one that we discussed earlier?
Yeah. So we've been working with Northrop for decades, actually, and we've done all kinds of different things with them. And it's kind of one of the advantages of being a workforce board because we never just offer one option to an employer. We have a whole menu of things that they can use. And so we're always talking about all those different options. And so they've, over the years, become familiar with many of the different things that we can do. And so we've kind of won their trust already. So we're not starting a conversation from scratch. So that's a little bit of an advantage we have. But we also work as a workforce board with all the local colleges and universities and high schools. So we have relationships there as well. And we have a youth department, so there's a lot of infrastructure set up already. So what we put together with Northrop Grumman, and they had already been working with El Camino College for quite some time, and they really liked hiring from their CNC machinist program, which is another occupation that all the employers need. It's a common one. So that's one area where you can, register an apprenticeship program that everyone can use. And that's kind of our philosophy. We try to do that not just for our area, but all over California. So we're a sponsor as well, just to give companies options. So if they want to use one of our apprenticeship programs, we'll accommodate them wherever they're located. So at El Camino College, they have this CNC machinist program. So what we did is partner with El Camino, and the kids that are going, or the students that are going through that program, are also enrolled into our pre-apprenticeship program. And while they're in this program, we've got it down now to where it's just like 3 steps. The first step is work readiness training. We have a course for that where we could provide it ourselves, or the school. Usually the schools have something that falls into that category. So it's basically, how to get a job, how to keep a job. We give them assistance with their resume development. And then the second step is occupational skills training, which represents training that is not offered at the school. So they're doing something very specific, but the employer generally would like additional trainings that are going to match up with the department they're going to be working in, for example. And so we provide that kind of training through an online company called Tooling U SME. And then the third step is like an internship, if you will, where there's an employer experience that the student is exposed to. And it can either be in person at the shop, or it could be a virtual experience where employers come online and talk about what it's like to work at their company. So it takes a variety of forms, that third track, if you will. So those three things are what the students are working on as they're going through the El Camino College curriculum to be a CNC machinist. So as those resumes are being worked on and we're assisting with them with that, we are also qualifying the students to see whether or not they'd be a fit for what we call WIOA, Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act grant. If you're in the workforce business, you know what that is. And then so we line them up with that funding stream. And while that all this is, it's kind of all happening simultaneously. While that's going on, Northrop Grumman is also reviewing resumes and deciding, you know, if there is anyone there that's a fit. It usually works out they hire most of the class, and the cohorts are generally like 20 people over, you know, a quarter or two. And then what happens is if they do decide to hire them, we enroll them into a WIOA program, and then that allows us to provide the employer with some on-the-job training funding for the first couple months that the employee is going to be working there. But we also have a partnership with West LA College. So back up a little bit, for a few years ago, we helped West LA College get a grant, a scaling apprenticeship grant with the Department of Labor. And so they hired us back as a contractor, and then we helped them manage it. So, and then El Camino is also a subrecipient in that grant. So it all kind of comes together. So for every hire, Northrop gets some incentive funding out of that West LA College grant that El Camino is a subrecipient on. And so that adds up to a little bit of money. And then there's some funding coming out of the OJT program. So with each hire, the company gets a pretty good chunk of money to help support that individual's success after they get employed. And so it's a pathway that is a great example because it starts with someone who's just starting out in college, working on a certificate program that ties to WIOA, that ties to another grant, an apprenticeship grant, and ultimately ends with employment at an employer. To make all that work took a lot of coordinating, as you can imagine. Took,
I'm
you know,
sure.
months to put together. But now we've done it a few times and it's working quite well.
That's the true pipeline of talent.
Yeah.
So let's talk about challenges. What challenges are you facing in establishing registered apprenticeship programs for the space industry, if any? So
Yeah, there's always challenges. You know what, the biggest challenge is something you might just expect. It's being able to move at the speed of business. It's really hard for, you know, quasi-government group to be able to do that with a kind of a program that requires the government. I mean, there's just so many hurdles, and that is the challenge. But you know, if you can, what we've tried to do to overcome that challenge is create as much as we can a turnkey solution for the employer. So I don't burden them with any of the details. I just tell them, look, all you have to do is make sure everybody finishes. We will handle the rest. And when we get to that point, then the employers are willing and tolerant to move forward. If you try to burden them with all the steps, you know, you'll lose them. So we handle it all. That's why we became a sponsor ourselves. And El Camino College is a sponsor, West LA College is a sponsor, where we registered our own standards and we have our own occupations, and then we work with each other. And you know, I refer to them, they refer to us, and we help sell it to each employer when we have those calls. But the employers basically over time have essentially told us a few things: that whatever you're designing for us, it has to be flexible. That's why we put flex in the name. it's hard for them to work with a rigid curriculum. You know, they need it to be able to pivot with the market conditions. So we had to be flexible with what we're requiring. It had to scale, as I mentioned earlier, you know, because the companies are global now, so they don't work in little areas. They want it to work wherever they do business. Apprenticeship does that because it's registered at the state level, it's registered at the national level. Incidentally, we're getting national standards. We're working on that right now too, so it can truly work in every state. But so the scalability is being addressed, and then the employer, they have to have minimal changes to the infrastructure, their internal infrastructure, to make it work for them too. And it's got to be little to no cost. You can't come to them, you know, with a plan that's going to require a ton of staff time and cost. That it won't work. And then you have to address the soft skills needs, which we're doing with the pre-apprenticeship step. And then moving at the speed of business is the challenge. So making all that come together is difficult to do. And then, you know, little other things like, you know, if you're doing a CNC machinist apprenticeship, you basically have one occupation. So you have to recruit people that are interested in that particular job, you know, so that's challenging. If I get a second occupation, if I can't fold it into the first one, I got to go out and register another one, and that takes months, you know. So the speed of business part is the biggest challenge for having.
Yeah, I can understand that. Um, so how would you advise others to get started with registered apprenticeship programs? What are the first conversations that need to happen, and what are some ways that other people can get involved?
Well, the way I talk to employers, I always tell them, and this is true for anybody. I mean, do like a pilot. You don't have to, you know, build Rome. Just do a little step at a time. So you don't even have to be your own sponsor. You don't have to, you could call someone like me or someone in your local area that already has a plan set up and running, and just partner with them and use their registration to enroll people. So that's what we do. So anyone out there that is interested in just working off one of our existing registrations, you can call us. We're happy to enroll your person, and then you maintain the relationship with the individual and the business and do your thing as you normally would. They just are under our standards, and then we do all the back end for you. And that's the best way to get started. And that's what we tell employers: just test it out. You know, do one or two people and see how it goes. Get your staff familiar with it, and if you like it, we'll scale it, and then eventually you can be your own sponsor and run it yourself. You know, and then we will continue to do our piece, which is applying for grants and helping support you with the on-the-job learning piece and other incentives that we can help offset some of your costs. And that's the best way to get started, is not to try to do everything yourself right out of the gate. Just try it out with someone that's already set up, like through an intermediary, for example.
That is the beauty of a group sponsorship. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to add for our audience today about apprenticeships or the space industry?
Yeah, when you're thinking about actually registering and typing it out, make sure your RSI, your um, you know, the coursework, put it in like general topics. Don't necessarily say specific exact classes that they have to take somewhere, because then you're going to be limited. You're going to be held to that, you know. So what we do is we make all of our training plans really general, so that it works anywhere in the nation, or at least anywhere in California, so that I can go to any local training provider, whether it's a community college or an adult school or whatever, and if they're teaching the topic I need, I can enroll people into that class. It doesn't have to exactly line up. But if you write it down as a certain thing, it's hard to be flexible, right? And then when you're doing that training, you could have like a core piece, and then you can have an as assigned piece. So you could you can have, you know, you got to do these 3 or 4, but then you have like another 20 to choose from, so you can always swap in and out these
Mhm.
different classes. um, And then, just as you're thinking about the other parts of it, with the employers, the way I start them out, I don't try to do 100 Zoom calls. I just say, send over your job description. That's all I need. And then I will take that and I'll look it up on the internet. I'll find different descriptions and I'll pull it all together. And then I'll make my different, competencies. All of our apprenticeships are competency based. I'll put in all the different things that I think are relevant. And then when I have something to actually show them, then we'll have a discussion on that piece. How does this look? And then we'll tweak it. And it's much better than trying to start building something, that isn't really that connected to what they're doing. So
Yeah.
just think about being flexible as you type this stuff up before you register it.
Well said. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. Thank you for joining us today. I really appreciate it. And we will talk soon.
All right. Thank you.
Wow. I hope you are left with the same profound appreciation for the incredible potential of this approach as I am. We've witnessed the way apprenticeships are reshaping the landscape of the space industry, nurturing the talents of individuals who aspire to reach new heights, and applaud the innovation of employers who clearly see the value in developing their own talent. As we look towards the vastness of space, we are reminded that this is not the only sector where registered apprenticeships hold the key to transformative growth. The success stories we've explored today, the partnerships forged, and the innovative strategies employed can serve as a blueprint for change in other industries as well. I invite you to consider the broader impact of registered apprenticeship programs. These programs bridge the gap between aspiration and achievement. Together with the support of JFF, we can create pathways to success, offer individuals opportunities to learn, grow, and excel in meaningful, impactful careers, all while strengthening the foundations of our vital manufacturing and agriculture sectors. In closing, I urge each of you to be a catalyst for change, to champion the expansion of registered apprenticeship programs, and to envision a future where everyone has the same opportunities to reach for the stars in the occupation of their choice. Reach out today to JFF to express interest in registered apprenticeship and get some free support to help you launch a new strategy for recruiting and retaining talent in your company. Thank you for your attention, and I look forward to working with you.
We are firm believers that apprenticeships will be a key driver to helping Jobs for the Future reach its North Star. Even though apprenticeships are a proven model that have been around for a very long time, they are still a very niche model in the US, and there hasn't been the widespread uptake as we've seen in other places. So we would love to get to a world where a young person is graduating from high school and the guidance counselor says, do you want to go to college or are you interested in apprenticeship? And right now that's just not the case. If there is effective federal policy around apprenticeship and work-based learning, we believe that there could be a huge uptick in the number of apprentices and work-based learning opportunities in this country. And so this is a bipartisan issue, and we've seen support from both sides of the aisle, and we hope that continues because we want to work with everybody to make this happen. At JFF, we see apprenticeship and work-based learning as a win-win for both employers and job seekers. For employers, it helps them close their talent gap, and for job seekers, it helps them access a quality job.